Okay, it is now 10 a.m. and I'm going to call the meeting to order. All three districts are present. The notice of the meeting was properly posted on April 8th of 2024. We'll begin with approval of minutes.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, number 2 is possible discussion and action regarding our selection of April 2024 BOCC Employees of the Month. Do I have a motion to receive document?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good morning. I'm done.
Good morning. We only have one, so that
One.
was an easy
Thank you.
decision. Thank you. Number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding presentation from Ernest Young, conduct an assessment on IT modernization and optimization within our organization.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. My name is Mark Whitman. I'm the managing partner with EY here in Oklahoma City, and I'm joined by a few of my colleagues today. Daniel Nicolati, who's also from our Oklahoma City office, and then Mike Ray, one of our IT leaders in the firm that works with governments around the country. We're happy to be here today. This kind of came out of some impromptu discussions that we had that Spencer Gwynn, our lobbyist, had previously with Commissioner Davidson around just things the county's thinking about for the future. And Spencer offered to have a conversation with us around how we might be able to help the county with kind of IT strategy, IT transformation. And so coming out of that, we put together this presentation of kind of some thoughts of how we might be able to help the county think about the future of IT within the county organization. So that's my brief introduction. I'm going to go ahead and quickly turn it over to Mike, who is our leads this type of work around the country, including some projects in Colorado and a few other larger counties around the country. So Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for hearing us today. I'd like to walk you briefly through the materials that we have, and then we'll have a period for Q&A to follow. So if you could advance the slides. Oh, I have the clicker? So I'll advance the slides. So we'll walk through an understanding of your needs as we understand them today, our approach and methodology, and then some credentials and move on to QA. So in terms of understanding, we understand that Oklahoma County is going through a period of transformation where you have some opportunities for technology modernization to better serve the residents and citizens of the county. In order to support that, there's an intent to put together a technology strategy that supports prioritization of investments and transformations over the course of the next 5 years or so. The approach that we typically take when looking at these kinds of initiatives is to start by answering a number of key questions related to the current state in terms of whether or not existing technology capabilities are operating with optimal efficiency, whether or not there's adequate input from all of the key stakeholders across the county into prioritization, transparency and visibility around those projects, and then do we have the right partners, the right projects, and then is the infrastructure really meeting the needs of the citizens of the county? As we move to a future state definition around that strategy, we'd look at the costs associated with existing and future state capabilities, dependencies, the skills and the workforce that you have in place today, as well as how you retain and develop those skills moving forward, and then the operating model in terms of processes and automation to deliver those services effectively. As an outcome, we're looking to develop a 5-year strategic plan with a series of targeted investments and an outcome driven by joint prioritization of all of those initiatives to best meet the needs and provide a flexible structure for reprioritization over time. Any questions on context or anything else worth checking? Moving ahead to our approach. So we typically take a customer first view, looking at county residents, participants, as well as county employees, take a knowledge of the county, the knowledge, the facts that are drawn out here, those available from public documents, will be validated during that current state assessment phase of the project. We then compare leading practices from across the country in terms of things that we're seeing in other counties and states in terms of digitization of public services, a view of citizen engagement, development of digital skills within the county employee area, as well as the infrastructure and shared services that are required to deliver those services effectively. All of that feeds into an operating model framework, which is people, processes, and technology, which we would look to define over the course of the project. We have a standard model for operating models for technology organizations, which really comprises looking at the people that are part of the organization, the processes that they drive, and then the technology infrastructure that sits beneath it. The technology strategy is the overarching piece of that, which is designed to set direction, set guiding principles, and support that that longer term vision. And then the change management component across the bottom is intended to support the transformation of the workforce, transformation of the processes in a way as to be non-disruptive to services delivered as well as the employees of the county. Well, that didn't come out very well. Current state organizational model for the county. Currently, you're in a bit of a federated model with some services that are shared across the different county organizations and agencies, and some elements that operate within autonomy within each of the organizations. We believe that's directionally the right move, the right way to go for the county, but we would look at it in more detail during the assessment piece with an intent towards identifying areas where more shared services or better coordination between shared services would result in either increased efficiency or better quality of service for the county. That also doesn't come out very well on the presentation, but looking at infrastructure in terms of general trends that we're seeing across the country, there's a movement towards SaaS cloud services. Sorry. Okay. Towards SaaS and cloud services, which we believe provides better value for money as well as more reliable and scalable services. So we would look to continue to see that trend evolve in the infrastructure space. For governance models, as you look at county agencies versus centralized county IT for governance, there's a trend towards more shared services, more shared governance, more collaborative governance in that space to allow the county to deliver services more effectively. We'd expect to see some trending in that direction. Our approach to delivering the roadmap would be somewhat accelerated. We have a period of about 9 weeks that we've seen is about optimal for a county this size across the country, where we do a current state assessment. We do the target state strategy and operating model design. Then we do a comparison, a gap analysis between current and future state to identify key initiatives, identify the cost and benefits associated with those initiatives, and then work with county executive leadership to drive prioritization of those to fit into that 5-year roadmap model. It is an aggressive time frame, but we've had a lot of success with it. It tends to focus the teams, focus county participants in order to get to a very actionable roadmap in that period of time. This is a more detailed view of the timeline and activities, as well as the timings for the outputs that you would see. So towards the end of week 3, we would have a technology evaluation report of the current state of affairs for technology across the county. Week 6, we would have a technology strategy and operating model laying out the people, processes, and technology that would be the North Star or future state. And then towards the end of the project at week 9, we would have the strategic plan and roadmap, which would be the prioritized set of initiatives set against the timeline. Picture's missing again, but key work products and deliverables. So what's in that technology evaluation report? So inputs from business leaders, what we heard, desires for capabilities, desires for future services, frank assessment of existing capabilities. For technology strategy and operating model, you would have the strategy with the guiding principles, mission and vision, future state operating model with people, processes, and technology. And then for the plan and roadmap, the prioritized initiatives, the roadmap, and then another executive strategy presentation to share that and support governance and ongoing revision to that roadmap over time. Team structure. So folks here are the folks that would deliver it. So I would be leading it with a team of approximately 3 engagement participants, an engagement manager, and then an operating model team. We would also bring in executives and leadership from across our practice tied to best practices in infrastructure, best practices in digital government, as well as different technology platforms and applications as relevant based on the current state assessment. Also, obviously, would draw upon our local Oklahoma City resources to provide connectivity and provide support from our offices across the street. Proposed fees. So for that 9-week effort, it's $495,000. That is flexible based on duration. If there was a need to extend, it would be obviously more. But we've structured this, we've delivered it many times aggressively, and we believe we could deliver a great outcome for the county in the time frame projected. We have some additional reference materials around our firm and its qualifications. I won't belabor that with you. Pictures came out on this one. Some sample credentials. As I say, we've done this across the country in a number of places, number of state departments, county governments, local governments. And that concludes the general portion of the presentation. Any questions that you have for me or the team?
I don't think we, do you have any questions for him? I appreciate the presentation. I would like to hear from our IT director, Dane.
Good morning. Outside of the meeting that Colton and I have had, this is the first time I've seen the actual presentation, so I don't really have a whole lot of comment on it at this present time.
Okay.
All right, I have a question.
Okay.
You know my IT skills.
Yes,
Oh.
they're well documented in our office.
Yeah. So my assumption would be that this is not the only organization of this type that performs this type of service.
I would assume that's correct.
That's it.
Okay.
I also think it would be great to have a couple proposals, some pricing on this type of service. And I would also like to sit down with you before we make a decision just
Sure.
to learn about what are our needs and how this helps you and how this supports you. I know what really spurred this conversation, at least since I've been here, I've only been here for a little over a year, was that we really need a policy in regards to policy retention
Several
and several
policies.
other policies.
Record retention is
Records retention.
that's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. And so we're really, for me, finding a partner that can help us, shore up governance and help with strategy. And I mean, that's all amazing, but that's a big concern for mine is the fact that we're lacking our retention policy.
That's correct. Our thoughts are pretty simple on this. John and I talked about it, as well as Jared and the rest of the team, that no matter what you do, until the county has firm policies in place that are trustedness policies and they're willing to enforce, there's not much more you can do that's going to solve anything.
And I don't see that really focused on in this presentation because that's our primary need. Everything else is wonderful, and I love strategic planning. That's, my happy place. But making sure that we've got our foundation and communication, which I guess is part of this, with our other departments, such as the sheriff's office. I see Andrea in the back. I think that's a big focus.
Right. Correct.
Very good. So I appreciate your time. It was a wonderful presentation, but I definitely would like to see more information and have time to talk.
Yeah, I think we need to have some discussions. And you briefly touched on, you mentioned the sheriff's office in the back of the room, but we haven't, as they pointed out in the presentation, there are a number of different elected officials that have some component of their own IT, and an investment like this would certainly require their buy-in, and I don't know if you've even had an opportunity probably to visit with them either. Right. Ye- Right, right. I think the more they know on the front end when we're considering something like this, the more likely the success will be, as opposed to us making this recommendation and then it seems like it's being forced upon them. Yep. But,
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's a great time. Sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, as Jessica said, it's very informative and gets me thinking about ways we might be able to move forward.
Yeah, and I love your approach, and I love the timeline. I think it's very much needed in order to help us, get the ball rolling, communications amongst all the departments. But definitely need to have further conversation. So, what is the proper way? Would we need in order to send out an RFP? Would we need to get with Chantel in order to do that, or what is the
What-
proper way of gathering other quotes from other companies?
That would be the way to do this. Before we do that, though, could we take a little bit of time so we could visit individually with Dane and then
Okay.
proceed down that road?
Thank you, Colton.
I'll make a motion to receive the report. My understanding, the presentation was actually attached, so we don't need to receive that. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and number 4 is discussion possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and status reports related to the planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County grant programs. Nikki Morton.
Good morning, guys. How's it going? So, for the grants watch this week, sorry, my allergies are horrible. So, sorry, I sound weird today. But for the grants watch list, so we'll start at the very top. And we are working with the EECBG grant, and that is the energy grant that I've kind of spoke about all year. We've gotten to the point to where the grant is due this month, and we need to have a energy conservation study plan. We selected to go with the voucher component of this grant, and if we want to use our voucher for this conservation study plan, I think that would be probably the best choice at this point, or for some type of technical assistance. So if you guys would want me to go forward on maybe trying to use our voucher for this conservation study plan or for some type of technical assistance. I think for time's sake, that would be the best approach for us at this point. It is $80,000. This is a part of all of the other energy conservation and pollution reduction type efforts that we are going for in some of the other grants that we've applied for. So this falls in line with it, and this energy conservation plan would really be a good show that the county is looking towards the future and strategically planning for energy conservation. So I really think that that would be a good use for our voucher is that conservation study. I'll look more into it. We've tried to get with OG&E. We haven't really had a lot of success. Um, I don't really think that we can upgrade anything in facilities enough to satisfy the 80,000 or make a huge impact. But like I said, the energy conservation plan would be really, really good for us because we have to have that for us to even apply for the grant. That's one of the requirements. And then the Department of Mental Health grant, it's done. We're in the contract phase of it. We're waiting for a little bit more legal logistics to get worked out, and we'll be able to start invoicing for the funding for that grant fairly soon. Um, the Oklahoma County Abatement Grant. So we've submitted that grant. So we still need a resolution on that. And we need that by April the 18th. But other than that, everything has been submitted. And we should hear back about an award in mid or late May. The Department of Commerce, the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, we did not get this grant, but we will have a debrief with the EDA on this Thursday at 3:30 to kind of learn more about how we can strengthen our application if we want to apply for next year. The air quality, the EV chargers, we were awarded that grant once again, and that grant, we have our contracts for that. And so that contract has gone through our DA and it is now with our facility, with Keith. And so facilities is looking it over and I'll know what to do next once I get direction from Keith on that one. The solid waste program is the same. The Oklahoma County, the collaborative juvenile planning grant, it's the same. We weren't awarded. I have some feedback on it on how we can strengthen our application for next year if we choose to go that route. The Department of Education equipment grant, the equipment was installed and I have started the reimbursement process. And so we should probably get reimbursed for that sometime in late May or early June. Our CPRG grant, the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. So ACOG has submitted their application. It was submitted on April 1st. Our survey application was considered. They asked the county to submit a letter of support to go along with the application, which was done. And I really have high hopes on this application and on this grant. The plan is, as of right now, if ACOG is awarded the $50 million that they pretty much ask for, they're going to split that up into 3 different buckets, and they're going to have the ACOGs apply for the funding in which their project fits in. And so we'll have an opportunity to apply for that, but we really won't know anything more on that until later on this year. The Oklahoma 911 Management Authority grant, we didn't have a project eligible for that. The data is rolling. We can apply for that anytime if we choose. The RAISE grant for this year, we just did not have an eligible project. We had Midwest Boulevard. That is what we applied for with it the first time, and we were not successful. We just need a better project is really what we need. We had a drug court grant, and we just don't have a project. We're just not ready for that right now. The capacity, we don't have the capacity for it right now. U.S. Department of Labor grant. We don't have a strong enough partner for that one right now. That I looked at Diversion Hub. Diversion Hub really isn't really ready to go forward with us on that type of on that type of grant. It's a Department of Labor grant, and they have really strict compliance rules, and so they want to take a little time on that and let us kind of get situated, and then maybe next year we could apply for that grant. The Oklahoma Department of Homeland Security grant, that is just another IT grant. It's a rolling grant. I've talked to our IT department, and it's no rush. There's funding available, but that's funding out there for us to be able to do some upgrades to our IT department. And lastly is a U.S. Department of Justice grant, and it's a contract grant, and it is the Pay for Success grant. And so basically what this is a grant that awards a municipality or a county or a tribe or other eligible entities $1 million for some type of contract that enhances reentry services in our community. So it is a reentry grant, and it is for a contract. I've done a little bit of work on this, and what I found is that we already have an existing contract with a reentry provider organization, and I just think that I need to know more about what that contract entails before we try to see if this grant can work for that contract.
Who is that provider?
Team. So, and that is all I have on the grants watch list. As you can see on the upcoming funding coming in, we have about 380,000 outstanding. Once again, $80,000 of that is in that energy savings plan, that EECBG plan that I'm kind of working on. So just trying to get that taken care of, and our AG opioid grant, which is 300,000. So those are our two outstanding funds that we have available that we could get in the coming months. So things have been going really, really well. In addition, I was able to start a grants collaborative of other grant professionals around the metro. We met for the first time last month on Grant Professionals Day. We had about 10 of us show up and have lunch together and talk about just different grant stuff that's going on, and how can we come together and collaborate with each other, or are there certain opportunities that might be advantageous for one organization or the other? And so it was a really, really great show of support for all of us. And so we've decided that we're going to meet once a month. And so we'll meet once a month, and we will just talk and collaborate about what's happening around grant professionals and how we can help each other and lift each other up. And our next meeting is April the 19th. And if anyone would like to join and just kind of see what we're doing and what we're talking about, you're more than welcome. We would love to have you. Yeah. That is all I have for today.
I love that. Thank you for your collaboration with other grant professionals and that support. And that's really, really awesome.
Yep.
In order to have mentors and be able to mentor others. Now on number 6, so you talked about number 6, which was the
Yep.
Department of Labor. Okay. Just
Can
wanted to
we,
make sure.
before we leave
Okay.
this item, there was one, Nikki, the SAMHSA treatment court,
Yes, sir.
no eligible project.
Mm-hmm.
On that one, was the county the only eligible applicant?
Yes.
It wasn't available for drug courts to directly apply? All right.
Any questions, Colton?
That's good.
Well, I appreciate all of your hard work.
Thank you.
You're doing an amazing job. Can I get a motion for 4 and 6?
Motion to receive report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll go back to number 5, which is discussion and possible action for election of chairman and vice chairman for the year of 2024. Unfortunately, Don Cash is no longer with District 3, and so I just wanted to bring this back to attention to see if we would like to reassign those positions.
You're doing a marvelous job. You and Colton.
What'd you say?
Made a motion for,
First, Jessica as chair and you as vice.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, guys. Appreciate the opportunity to serve. Okay. Number 7 is discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and status report related to planning, oversight, and administration of the Oklahoma County ARPA funding allocation. Hello, Danielle.
Good morning. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks so much, Sharon. All right. So we'll go over our general, this is not a new outline for you all, but we'll go through our fund overview, some FAQ updates, which we've talked about in each of our individual meetings, county project status updates, community project status updates, the work plan for the next few months, and then some application portal updates. Here is our fund status. So most of these numbers look the same as what you've previously seen. There are still 82 total county approved projects, with that project number to increase as this portal is opening and you all will select subrecipients, so that project amount will grow. Additionally, on BOCC tomorrow, there will be an award from District 3 for Deer Creek Fire for ambulatory services. So once that gets through the contracting process, that will have that project's approved number grow as well. 47 of your projects are fully expended. That is a change from the last time we were here, which was 44. So we've had 3 more projects get fully expended since then. Your 5.7 is your remaining unauthorized community fund amount. If you'll recall, those were split 3 ways, but we have not yet allocated those to new projects. Year-to-date obligated still being your 60 million and your expended 51. That number increased from 49, which is how we also have some fully expended projects, so those numbers grew together. Overall, you have 10 projects that are at that 0% expended. They may have a PO in place, so an obligation in place, but they don't have a cost out the door yet. You have 19 projects that are expended less than 50%, 6 that are expended more than 50%, and then your 47 at 100%. So now we'll jump into FAQ updates unless there's any questions on fund status. Awesome. So there were several FAQ updates. Like I said, we did go over each of these with the offices individually yesterday and this morning, and so we won't go into each and every one of them, but giving just a general overview, all of Section 17 was added, and a couple of areas in 13.4, 13.17, and 16.10 were added as well. And those, not all of them were a direct impact to the county, and many of Section 17 is duplicative in nature, that it's just kind of walking through different scenarios. So we'll just hit the high points today since we've already gone into the weeds on these. So 17.6 is talking about, does an interagency agreement between departments and agencies within a recipient government constitute an obligation? So this is what we were talking about when it comes to being able to now obligate payroll costs, which is going to be relevant to your Homeless Navigator project. Previously, the MOU that we put together and had the county approve, Treasury said this is not going to constitute a transactional agreement, and they have come out with this FAQ update in section 17 to withdraw that and say, yes, an MOU between, it would be the county and social services to providing direction will count as a contract and an obligation. So we'll be able to include these necessary pieces in that MOU, and then we will have you guys readopt that. And with doing so, you'll be able to pay your homeless navigator through 2026 because those funds will be considered obligated. Something else to be aware of, just kind of building off of that into that 17.7, like I said, a lot of these go together. It's just talking about being able to cover those personnel costs starting January 1st of 2025 through December 31st of 2026. So you will be able to say that you've made that obligation through 2026 as long as the employee is serving in the position prior to December 31st of 2026. So it's keeping that obligation deadline, right? You have to have the program already in place. You have to have said this is the role that's going in place. You do already have an employee for that. And so that is what that is telling you. They're able to then report those funds as an estimate moving forward. And then we'll talk a little bit about 1716 and 1717. So this is talking about being able to cover increased costs to a contract that was entered into by December 31st of 2026 or 2024. So again, making sure that you keep that obligation deadline. So in general, you cannot, a recipient cannot re-obligate or obligate additional funds past that December 31st of 2024 deadline. But if a contract is entered into and there is a contingency already associated with that, then you will now be able to pay those change orders into the 2025 and 2026 timeframe. You guys already have contingencies on your project, so that's great. You'll be able to use those moving forward. And then the additional changes that they have provided some guidance on is if a contractor or subrecipient were to go out of business, if there was to be a canceled contract due to improper procurement or a cancellation due to convenience, there's a little bit more leeway now as well to be able to institute a replacement contract as long as it's substantially within the same scope and price. So that's kind of a quick rundown of our FAQs. We went into the weeds, like I said yesterday, but there is also some uniform guidance updates that I will let Jamie speak to a little bit.
Good morning. So the FAQ she's going through specifically was around ARPA. There is another body of language called Uniform Guidance, which oversees all federal funds. And for those in the grants professional world, this gets changed like very rarely, every 10 years. So this was a big significant change for those who follow grants. This has been in the works for several years, and the really goal here is to simplify federal funding. And so I'm going to go over 4 significant changes that'll apply to your ARPA funds, but then will also apply to any other federal funds that you guys are getting. And so the big increase here by the administration is to make grants simpler to apply for. And so they simplified a lot of the uniform guidance to make it clear and not circular. And so anyone who's been in the weeds of uniform guidance, it's very circular and refers back to lots of other places. So a lot of that circular language got taken out, as well as they clarified how you would go about getting your UEI and your SAM.gov number. The other really interesting thing is they simplified NOFO. So those Notice of Funding Opportunities, those lovely grants that Nikki comes up here and shares about, they're going to make those more uniform and less pages. So those are often 80, 100 pages. And reading through all those NOFOs to understand what you can apply for can be challenging, as well as all the compliance. So this was to make federal grants more straightforward and simplified language. The other interesting things that got changed were increased audit and spending thresholds. So as you all know, the county does a single audit, and as well, all of your subrecipients have to do a single audit if previously they had spent $750,000 across all federal funds in a fiscal year. That new threshold is $1 million. So we will now make that change to all of your subrecipients and then all of your future subrecipients. They only have to send the audit to us in the Federal Audit Clearinghouse if it's $1 million. The other interesting change is previously you could only spend 10% on administration. So that's the de minimis rate. That has now been increased to 15% on administration. So you'll see that on all new federal grants, that a larger percentage can be used for salary or indirect costs for reporting compliance. So that's also great news. And then also expenses. And we share this with your agencies as well as your subrecipients if they purchase equipment. And then previously it had been a $5,000 cap. So any equipment over $5,000 had to follow the federal disposition rules. If you sell a printer at $6,000, it had to follow the disposition rules. That new threshold is $10,000, so slightly higher. Those are all the major changes. I know that's very wonky and in the weeds, but for those in the grants professional world, these are really great changes to simplify federal funds.
She's taller than me. So if there's no questions about FAQ or uniform guidance, we'll jump into the county project status updates. All righty. All right. So about 30% of funds have been utilized for your county projects. Of the 140 million allocated specifically to internal projects, which includes the PBA and the detention center, 43.8 million has been paid out. That's an increase from the last time we were here. It was 42.2. You have 5 projects that are completed 50% or more. That's an increase of 1. It was 4, now to 5. You have 31 projects completed 100% on the county side, 17 completed less than 50%, and 2 not started. That is a decrease as well. The not started number was 3 last time, but with the change in the JJC COVID contract and those funds being moved towards the security operations vehicles now, that project is going to be canceled and will be pulled. And so that brings that not started down number as well. Just things to highlight that are important. The loading dock awarded bid, as you all know, was awarded at an amount higher than what the authorized amount is. That is due to the fact that the statutory change order effect. And so what will occur here, if you had to go through that entire contract process and had to meet each of those change orders, you would have to find additional funds. So we did provide that guidance to you all. We did provide that guidance to the purchasing department and reminded the infrastructure team that any increase beyond the authorized amount of ARPA dollars has to come from a county source of somewhere. So just something to continue to remember. Your countywide radio project has included 2 additional jurisdictions to pay their access service fees between them and Oklahoma City to be on the trunked radio system. So it's really exciting. We have 2 more organizations that will be more integrated. As you all know, and as just a general reminder, there are some timeline concerns with the medical and behavioral health facility that is associated with the detention center. So just want to make sure that we continue to monitor that, as it's about $40 million. Again, talking a little bit about our local assistance tribal contingency fund. It's a very small amount, that $100,000 that can be used towards any governmental purpose other than lobbying. It has not yet been authorized, obligated, or expended in any way. So it's something that we'll want to start thinking about how we want to use those funds and making sure we're meeting those obligation deadlines by the end of this year as well. And then your roof projects are also nearing closeout, which is really exciting. So all of those are about to come through fruition. And then lastly, we will be making moves on the sheriff's payroll and benefits projects. We've received the portion of time spent documentation from their department. So thank you very much, Andrea, on your hard work on that. And so we will do a data validation of that, and then we will be able to move those agenda items. It's about $14 million that will end up rolling to your general fund. So very exciting, lots of movement, and that's going to increase your grant paid amount quite a bit once we're able to get those through. Are there any current county project questions? Easy enough. We'll jump to the community projects. So this does not include yet the 5.7 that you all have decided to split 3 ways to increase that 8.6 amount. This is just related to the original allocation. Since we have not awarded other projects yet, we just have not included that. But of the 8.6 million number, you've paid about 8 million out of that. So that's a great start, with 88% of total funds being released. All of your county projects are fully obligated and have contracts in place. There were 0 that are not finalized, which is really exciting, especially as we are bringing in new ones in the next few months. There is something to be aware of on the BOCC agenda for tomorrow. You will be having a contract that is no longer going to be moving forward. So these 22 numbers are going to reduce down to 21. No funds have gone out the door for that contract as of yet. They were a medium risk subrecipient. They've not been able to provide the requested documentation on multiple occasions. And since no funds have gone out, that contract, in accordance with kind of our own concerns, and then working with the office that awarded those funds originally have decided not to move forward with that. So that's something that will bring that down a little bit, but no harm to the county as no funds had gone out the door. So no clawback or anything like that. This month we have been doing our site visits. Yesterday we did Northeast Oklahoma Renaissance and Restore OKC. Both went extremely well as they were very prepared with the documentation. They did really great tours. It was very interesting to see the land acquisition and property that they have going on through Northeast Oklahoma Renaissance. The neighborhood that they are developing is very, very cool. And so if you ever get the chance to kind of tour that with them, that is amazing. And then we also got to do a tour of Restore OKC's facilities. And so they have a lot of local farming, and they're doing farmers markets, and they have the local grocery store. And so they have really gone out of their way to make sure that there's not a food desert in that portion of Oklahoma County. So they're doing great work there, along with some workforce development, which Northeast Oklahoma Renaissance does as well. So your sub-recipients are performing really, really well. And then tomorrow we will do our Urban League site visit, and we anticipate the same types of positive engagement with them. Important dates to remember. We did ask subrecipients to provide their quarterly supports to us by the 3rd of last week. That is because we have to do our P&E report by the end of this month. So we did get everyone except for one organization who had not yet submitted, but they were just a little bit confused. They had zero expenditures, so they didn't think they needed to. We reminded them they just need to put zero and send it to us anyway, so no big deal on that. We will get those reports submitted. We have our Ripple mapping session today at the Oklahoma Accenture office, so please feel free to join us. I did put it on everybody's calendar. And so we will get to be interacting with each of the subrecipients to talk about how the impact of the ARPA dollars is really bringing the entire community together. It's going to be a really cool mind mapping process, so we're really looking forward to that. Tomorrow we'll do our final portal session. It'll be in person, and then on the 17th, the application portal opens. It's very noteworthy that you had over 300 attendees between the two webinars. It was about 150 and 150 on each of the two webinars we did. We're expecting a full house tomorrow as well for our in-person session. So probably 200 applications, if not more, would be our anticipation. And I do want to highlight the hard work of your IT department and Bob specifically in being very instrumental in us continuing to update the ARPA webpage. So we had put all of the webinar information on there, all of the in-person information on there. He will help us when we upload the actual link to apply, but he also helped us get the notification banners, the session details, the guidebook uploaded, application prep uploaded as well. So they have been really, really helpful with those pieces. And I'm going to do a quick talk about our desk review with Oklahoma State Fair, and then we can talk any questions about the portal. So we did a desk review with Oklahoma State Fair a couple weeks ago, and so I like to just update each of you as we do these. And so next month you'll get to see our slides on Restore OKC and Northeast Oklahoma Renaissance in the Urban League. So Oklahoma State Fair was awarded $250,000. We completed their desk review on the 26th of last month. They are working on implementing energy efficient lighting throughout the facility. They are about 90% of the way completed with that project, which is really exciting. So that project will be coming to a closeout relatively soon. They had a couple of key performance indicators, and we aren't able to finalize that data until the project is actually completed because they have not put in all of the lights. But the KPIs that they are tracking is the comparison of facility electricity maintenance and supply costs prior to implementing these new lights, the total number of individuals benefiting per month, so how many people are attending, and then the percentage of allocated funds expended per quarter. So they are on track to fully expend funds, and we will get those KPIs once all of the lights are fully implemented. But the feedback they're receiving from their community partners is really positive. Individuals who have come in and done services there, have trade shows, have horse shows, etc., have all said that they can really see and feel the difference. And they are looking at probably a 20-year end of life for those lights, so it's a quite substantial project for them. Before jumping into work plan, are there any community project questions or portal questions? And we'll get a little more into portal on one of the other agenda items as well, but don't want to get too far.
No, but I want to thank you for doing that Ripple mapping. I'm really looking forward to that.
So are we.
And getting to connect with all the sub-recipients. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
That's above and beyond. So I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, we're very excited. And I think you guys will love to, I know you guys will love to see how that all comes together. There's been a lot of really positive impact in this county with ARPA. All right, we'll jump into work plan. These are familiar slides as well. You guys have seen these previously, but just kind of gives you an idea of what we've been working on the last 2 weeks, what we're working on in the next 2 weeks before we get to see you all again. So again, we've completed those site visits. We've done multiple community application trainings. We've put together an application guidebook, which we will walk through in a moment. We've done a sample application form so people can begin prepping their portal responses as well. We are prepping for the Ripple mapping, and then your application portal is definitely ready and will be opened on the 17th. We have closed one of our RAID items, which was, as I was speaking to, the conclusion of one of your contracts no longer moving forward. And then we have spoken about the loading dock bid that came in over the authorized ARPA amount. So if you had to go through the 15% change order, it would exceed the authorized amount of 164 because it's at 164 and you only had 149 in that project. So again, you'll just have to cover that with county funds if you get there. Not necessary that you would even get through all of your change order, but statutorily that is what is in the agreement. You've gotten these updates from your infrastructure and owners rep team, but we are tracking these things as well, have our regular weekly touch points with them, and then follow the infrastructure meeting. So based on those conversations, things are aligning. Like I said, your roofs are going through final paperwork and closeout. Your HVAC is looking like it's going to be finished in mid-May. Your JJC lobby is having its final walkthrough this month. The detention center roof should have finished in March. Your asbestos has started on the 5th floor, and we got to see it nice and protected out. So those renovations have begun. Your elevator initial design is being drafted and is supposed to be done by mid next week. Your annex jury pavilion, which is an indoor situation rather than an outdoor pavilion at this point, the architect selection is beginning in April, so this month. Your loading dock, as I said, was awarded. Your detention center HVAC is going through design plans and is supposed to go out for bid, waiting on those final numbers in May. The EOC has a CAMR, so your construction manager at risk, has been selected, and then your DA transition to ICB has been open for bids for the construction manager at risk, and then your PVA camera system is nearing the final closeout as well. So we've got several infrastructure projects that are moving along, and then the rest of this is very duplicative of what we have spoken about already, talking about our guidebooks, talking about the desk reviews and subrecipient monitoring. So we'll do just kind of an overview of what the next few weeks / months look like for everybody. So we're in April now. As you can see, we have done some of our on-site reviews. Next week, I will be submitting all of the quarterly reporting. We'll do our Ripple mapping, and we'll open our portal this week or next week as well. So that'll kind of get us through April. And then into May, what we'll be doing is reviewing most applications as they're submitted into the portal. Like I said, we're anticipating probably 200 or so. And so we'll want to do a review process as soon as possible as they're coming in. And again, right now, we're just assessing eligibility. So we will collate the projects based on what eligibility category they're in and whether they're eligible or not. And then the portal will close on the 30th. And then in May, we will also begin prepping for the annual report. So as you'll recall, that's about the 150-page or so document that gets shared on the county website. It will be a little bit longer this year as well, as you have additional subrecipients. And so we will begin that prep in May, and it will go all the way through July until we submit that report in July. But throughout all of that, we will also be doing your portal assessments as well. So it's going to be a busy few months, but we're looking forward to bringing in some more subrecipients and getting that report published so everybody can see all the great work Oklahoma County is doing. That was the big view. This little view giving you the short term over April and May, going through those site visits, the application portal opening and review. Again, this just gives you kind of a shorter look at what we're doing over the next few weeks. And then we'll talk about the application portal update. So we're very excited. We did do those webinars. Like I said, we had about 150 people on each of them, and we had pretty strong feedback. We had 176 total people that responded, so we got about half the people to respond to the session feedback. We did have 2 that didn't feel that the session was as beneficial as they would have liked. We do have that contact information based on who submitted that. And so I did reach out to each of those and provided the opportunity to do an additional session to come with us in person or ask any additional questions they might have. We have not heard back from them, but if we do, we will certainly make sure that they are well taken care of and feel prepared to apply. The other feedback that we received was that the session was a little bit fast. That's not surprising. You know, I talk fast. But also we did it in about 30 minutes, trying to be respectful of people's time. And so we have expanded the in-person session to be an hour. So that will allow for a little more Q&A and give people a feeling of it being a little less rushed. But we did do 2 sessions. So if they felt rushed, hopefully they joined the second one and got up to speed. I did go through on our session feedback form as well. We had a place for Q&A, so anybody who submitted a question, we did respond to their question via email as well. So hopefully everybody's feeling very excited and prepared for this. And again, we did put together a guidebook and we did publish the portal questions already on the Oklahoma County website to kind of help people walk through this process. And so you guys have seen this slide before, just talking about the 6 different sections of the guidebook. But when we are done with this agenda item, we'll open the next one and I can walk through the guidebook.
Thank you for creating that. That's been a great resource to be able to provide to those interested in applying.
Helps with a lot of questions. Other than that, that walks us through this report. Oh, I can, yeah. We'll talk a little bit about infrastructure project one more time. Thank you, Jamie. We are wanting to discuss the Annex Security / Front Entrance project. Just as a note, it is a project that has a set amount of funding towards it, and the P&G committee previously directed, I believe, the infrastructure committee to go out and get bids to make a determination on what the actual cost for that project will be. Based on conversation we had with engineering this morning, the cost is $695,000 over the original estimated amount. There is not a contingency in plan for that increase. As you know, each of you have divided your funds 3 ways. You could, if you wanted to move forward with that project, decide to do a 3-way match. One of you could fund it, none of you could fund it. You could use county funds, but in general, there's not an ARPA pot that is left over to pay for that increase. So it is something to be aware of, and I'm sure we'll be discussing infrastructure, but it is a substantial increase over the amount.
We're discussing infrastructure.
I can review my thoughts. As you know, we also have another project that is going to be significantly over the authorized budget amount, and that is the HVAC down at the detention center. My initial thought on both of these projects is that we would consider utilizing the $10 million that is available in the revenue replacement category. Those funds have to follow the same obligation deadlines as our other ARPA funds. So if we could do the revenue replacement for the detention center HVAC project, we could then revert the funds that have been set aside for the first floor project back into the 14-15 and then reallocate the amount needed, additional funds needed to be able to do the project in full. So that's my initial thoughts on the way to work this. Seems to be the cleanest as well.
My thoughts as well. When I spoke with Stacy yesterday, he had given me after receiving the different quotes, that it was at $695 for the front entrance. But I believe we're still waiting on final quotes for the HVAC system.
That's my
And
understanding.
he said that we'd have all those by possibly next month. And also my thoughts were to use that reimbursement, that 10 million, in order to be able to pay for. But I believe we probably need to wait to see what those quotes come in and then make that decision at that time.
Yeah.
Any other?
I think if all goes well, we can award the tentatively the first floor is a July 8th start date. In visiting with White and Associates, they'd like to push that up a little bit, take advantage of the 4th of July holiday to do some preliminary work. So I think we have the ability to do that, but
Okay.
that would be the thought.
Yeah, and our office agrees as well.
Sounds good. We will
Thank
be
you
prepared
for
for that
bringing
next
that
month.
up.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll work towards connecting with you all and then working through that agenda language to roll both of those back into 14-15 and then allocating the revenue replacement. But we don't have to do that today.
Anything else?
Not on this agenda item.
Okay. Do I have a motion to receive report?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then your next agenda item is number 7.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Or 8.
8, sorry, 8.
So this is going to be a just quick overview of the community portal application guidebook. So this is what you all have seen. You've been sharing it with your constituencies as they've been asking questions, and it is hosted on the Oklahoma County webpage. But this just puts it in another location for people to access. You have it in your minutes now as well. And again, has those 6 main sections talking about program descriptions, eligibility requirements, application information, the review process for the applications, the award administration process, and then FAQs. Just general FAQs of this specific grant as Oklahoma County has been awarding, not FAQs as relation to what Treasury Department has given us. So your FAQs in this instance is how much does the county have to award? What is the median previous award amount and things like that. So within your program descriptions, we talk a little bit about the background of SLFRF, how much funding is available, what your application limits might look like, and then what the period of performance on this grant is. Going into section 2, we talk about the eligibility requirements. So what is an eligible versus ineligible project? Talking about also the target projects, the 5 main areas that you all have decided to prioritize, such as jail diversion, housing, food assistance. We go into detail on those as well, and the target eligibility categories that each of those would fall within. We also talk about how to highlight if you're working with a disproportionately impacted community and what that might mean for your application and how it benefits the county as a whole. We talk a little bit about allowed and unallowable cost, and then we talk about the compliance pieces of fair labor practices, civil rights and non-discrimination, and domestic preference. Then getting into the application information. So you've gotten in the weeds in section 1 and 2, and 3 is really about what the application is looking for. And then they can also, again, reference the portal questions that we have posted on the county website as well. And then the section 4 eligibility review process, very straightforward, just letting people know that we are just doing a initial assessment of whether the project is eligible or ineligible right now. There's no other set scoring criteria at this time, subject to change, but currently just is this eligible or not, and that each individual office will be able to select projects. And then section 5 talks about that award administration piece. So if you are awarded, what does your subrecipient contract look like? Knowing that you have to go through a risk assessment, understanding your site visit requirements, your reporting requirements, both quarterly and annually. And then you, like I said, we have some FAQ updates at the end. So that kind of walks through the guidebook itself. It is, again, hosted on the website. You all have a copy, and about 350 other people got it on my distro list. So it is far and wide in Oklahoma County right now. Are there any questions about the guidebook itself?
Nope, just other than there's been great feedback from
Okay.
the people contacting our office, so appreciate you doing that.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that.
The second round of this has been, since we've had the experience from the first one, it's been really nice because anyone that's asked us, we've been able to provide all your great communication, the guidebook, an example of the contract. I mean, it's been a really great experience. So thank you for
Good.
the extra foresight and thought.
No, we're really glad to hear that feedback, and I'm glad that it is smooth. We feel it's run smoother on our end as well. So definitely all of us learning together. That is it on that agenda item as well.
Motion to receive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the last one is just in relation to the application itself. So we've uploaded a PDF version, again, also on the county website, that runs through all of the questions that will be asked so people can be prepared for this for when the portal opens on the 17th. It is a Microsoft form, so it should be a little bit easier to use this round. People will get a copy of what they submitted, quickly emailed to them. We'll be able to pull Excel reports based right out of this form. It's a little bit long. It's about 60-ish questions, but we've actually refined that down from the original application, which was probably about double. So it should be quite a bit faster, and it's really asking for very direct information, and a substantial part of those questions is budget related. So having them break down on the front side, how much is just going into each specific allowed cost. So that should really allow us during the review process to make sure things are eligible on the front side, and it makes sure that your subrecipients have fully thought through the project from start to finish. So we think it'll be really positive, even if they feel like it's a little long. At the end of the day, it'll be better for everyone. I won't walk you through it. It is linked. You all have a copy. But if there's any questions about it, please let us know. And again, we will walk through it tomorrow during our in-person session as well.
I don't have any questions. Do you have any questions, Colton?
Motion to receive.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And we're going to reopen number 6. I think I
Yeah, motion to
misunderstood.
return to item 6.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nikki,
Thanks, Jessica. That's my fault. I didn't understand.
we're gonna
We
we're
had
gonna discuss
combined
number
those.
6 on the U.S. Department of Labor, the Pay for Success initiative. Joe had a couple more questions than I.
Yeah,
Sorry
Nikki,
about that.
Couple of things. Within the grant, apparently there are 2 categories in which you can seek funding. Which way are you headed? Excuse me.
With the planning,
Pardon?
the planning portion of it,
Yeah, is that category 1? I can't.
category 1.
Category 1. Okay. And then you mentioned that we had a agreement with Team in
Mhm.
place. Can you remind me the pathway? Is it Pathway Home 4 grant that relates to? Is that correct? Does that ring a bell?
It does. The pathway home, the pathway for grant, that doesn't have anything to do with it.
No. You just mentioned that we had a contract with a provider
Mhm.
that did reentry for us,
Yes.
and that jogged my memory. So I was wondering that grant that relates to, that contract relates to, isn't listed on this watch list. Is that something outside of what you have done?
It is. It is. Yes.
Okay, and so those funds are, does anybody know? Who's administering the grant? Okay, all right. I'll do a little more research then.
It's so the pathway home for grant
Mhm.
is it's different funding, and so I don't really know what that particular contract is for that particular grant. I just know that we have services through Team that we could use potentially for this success program, the Second Chance program. I don't know 100% for certain because I haven't actually seen the contract in my hand.
Okay, and so you're still investigating.
I
Alright.
just wanted to make sure I could move forward on it.
With regard to the submission deadline of April 30th,
Mhm.
this group doesn't have another meeting prior to that.
Yes, sir.
How much is it possible that you could get all of this together and in the form that would be submitted for us to review if Jessica would indulge us with a special meeting?
I think so.
Okay,
I really wanted to
absolutely.
put it on this agenda item so that if I could move forward with it, I would have enough time for a special or whatever we need to do.
Yeah, and are you far enough along in looking at this? There's no matches required, there's no,
No match is required. It's a contract. So
okay, and they're doing how many awards?
six awards.
6
in
awards
this
at
category for
up
$1
to $1
million.
million.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, so long as we get a chance to review everything, prior to
Yeah.
recommending this to BOCC to move forward.
And be happy to do a special and reach out if you need any help or guidance.
Okay.
Once I get my hands on the contract and I know exactly what it says, then I'll probably get with you and get guidance. So
Okay, thank you, Nikki.
You're
Appreciate it.
Thank you for the further discussion.
No. Motion to, I don't know, proceed as discussed.
Proceed. Okay.
Second.
Yeah, proceed as discussed. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Grant. Number 10 is discussion and possible action regarding the need for additional staffing for public safety purposes. Additional staffing is necessary to provide accurate and detailed criminal history reports to the courts per state statute.
Good afternoon. How are
Morning,
you?
Grant.
But what in your estimate of needs?
So,
That's my motion.
okay,
Instruct you to put it in your estimate of needs.
Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
that's up to you guys.
If he thinks he needs more staff, go from there. That's what he
Okay.
needs.
That was going to be my recommendation too. If or see if it was already on in your estimate of needs.
not.
It's not.
It's not.
Okay.
So, because my point to be here today is seek your approval to move forward in requesting additional staffing for an immediate need now for, because what's been happening is in the past in arraignment hearing, there's been a necessity for us to be there to provide criminal history information to allow the courts to make an informed decision on pretrial release. And it's not just us. There's other forms of pretrial release, and per statute and per best practices, it's necessary for us to be there. I've had several meetings with the district attorney's office. They're 100% on board with approval for us to get funding for this, but if
How many?
just take it to estimate of needs, I'll do that now.
How many is additional staff?
Start with one.
Just one.
Are you, Grant, are you at full staffing right now?
Yes. Yes, we've hired an additional person, so we're at full staff.
So our recommendation is to put it on your estimate of needs.
Okay.
We can always revisit it again, too, if we need to do something differently, but I know what you just told us, but I'd like to also have a visit with you about what you're thinking. And you said there was an immediate need, so you could also request that BET would put it on their watch list as well. Are you wanting that recommendation from us as?
Well, with the meetings I've had with the district attorney's office, there's, like I said, immediate need for someone to be staffed right away. But most certainly we'll just take it to the estimate of needs. I had other stuff to bring up, but
Well, BET meets today, so it's too late to get it on their agenda. You could always, there could always be a request at budget board to transfer some funds absent a BET request. Unusual, but it could happen if the need is immediate, as you're mentioning. I'd just like to visit with you myself. They may have other ideas.
okay, I'll just stop there then and meet with each of you individually.
I would appreciate that.
If that's
Just so I have a better understanding.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. I have a motion to receive.
Receive,
report and no motion needed.
just to receive.
We'll just proceed as discussed. I'll second. Unless, did you say you'd second?
You can.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any citizen participation? Seeing none. Any board comments? I don't have any at this time. Okay. New business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.